Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Charter Authorizer Support Initiative for Charter Chat for January 28th, 2026. CASI, or the Charter Authorizer Support Initiative, is under the auspices of the California Department of Education, and we will be reading each slide to ensure accessibility. Next slide, please. So the information contained in this presentation is provided as a reference only. Charter schools and chartering authorities are encouraged to review the laws and regulations and consult with their own legal counsel regarding the application to their specific situations. So even though we do have recovering attorneys on this call, please do not rely on any of our information solely. Please go talk to your own attorneys. Next slide, please. So our agenda for today is we will do some introductions. We will talk about some current updates and in the legislature and with the State Board of Education and the ACCS. We'll also hit some hot topics, and in our hot topics, we actually have two presentations, and we are very grateful to Jonathan Eiler and Kimberly Munhank for coming from AMARD for coming to share with us information. We will hopefully have enough time to get to the breakout rooms so that you can get your questions and answers answered. Next slide, please. So welcome and introductions. As we said, CASI is under the auspices of the CDE, and there are three entities that work together: the Santa Clara County Office of Education, the Los Angeles County Office of Education, and the San Diego Unified School District. We are also supported by the California Charter Authorizing Professionals, or CCAP. Next slide, please. So this is your opportunity to rename yourself so that we know, and of course I did it wrong. I need to rename myself. So please take the opportunity right now to update your name and add in your organization, just like I just did. So it should have Michelle Johnson, Santa Clara, COE. This allows us in our breakout rooms, which will be done by authorizer rooms and non-authorizer partner rooms, so that we can better know who is in the room and who we're talking to. Next slide, please. So we want to, at our January quarterly training, which was held on January 23rd, 2026, from 9 to 11. The topic was dependent charter schools. And we really want to say thank you to our many guest presenters. It was a well-attended training, and it was recorded. There is a small resource page, but if you didn't get the opportunity to come and see it, please go and take a look on the CASI website so that you can see what we all learned about dependent charter schools. Next slide, please. So there will be a bonus February quarterly training. CASI is going to be having on in February 2026 a special bonus training. The topic is Beyond the Moratorium: Essential Non-Classroom Based Charter School Oversight. That will take place on February 6th, on Friday, from 9:30 in the morning to 11 via Zoom. The registration link is on the website. Or sorry, not on the website, it's on the resource page. Next slide, please. All right. So this is one we haven't had in a while, previous Charter Chat questions, but because of two of the questions that came up during our breakout rooms last month, I decided we needed to bring it back. So, when reviewing a data set from a charter school for renewal, what do you do if the participation rate is 60%? How does that impact the charter school dashboard? So, we actually got in, so this answer is also on the resource page, but when reviewing the data set for a charter school renewal, when the participation rate is under 95%, a loss is applied to each student needed to bring the participation rate up to 95%. The dashboard additional reports for math, ELA, science, placement reports, and the downloadable files provide the participation rate and the number of the assigned loss scores that are added. And so you can go and take a look at the resource page to see all of those different possible reports. Note that the value of only tested students is provided to show how much the overall score was affected by the participation rate, but should not be used for any evaluation purposes as it is not representative of all students and may be a pre-selected group of students. The other question that came up is where is the differentiated assistance list? And that list is released with the dashboard each year, and that link is on the resource page. Next slide, please. And I'm going to turn the time over to Tom to give us the legislative update.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Well, we have just a few quick updates, and they're sort of in two categories. One is legislative developments that have kicked into effect as of this month, and others are coming attractions potentially. So the first one, Michelle already mentioned, the moratorium on new non-classroom based school petitions has lifted as of this month, and that's why CASI is having a bonus quarterly training next month on that. And just for those of you who have been on our calls for the last couple years, you know that a lot of the legislation that has been considered about charter school reform had to do with schools in that sector, and that's why we had the moratorium in the first place. So just a reminder, and I guess sort of a sneak preview, a lot of the things we've talked about in terms of preventive practice by schools and by authorizers are worth refreshing because a lot of the safeguards that have been under consideration legislatively, the bill was vetoed, so they're not in effect yet. But there's a lot that we can do at the local level nonetheless to shore up the system with some of the concerns there. Renewal standards for middle tier performing schools for renewal purposes. No more verified data is required as of January 1st. That possibly may change with the new trailer bill language. And if you'll recall in some of our legislative updates, there was some speculation like maybe there'll be a trade-off with some more regulatory safeguards, but one of the things that the charters would like is to get the verified data language revived. But stay tuned on that one. LEAs have to revise their procedures and policies for collecting student information. That's birth certificates, to protect student information. So that one kicks in. LCAP penalties now. If an LEA's audit finds that the LCAP or the annual update were not adopted by July 1st as required, then that LEA will be assessed a penalty of 20% of its second principal apportionment and 1% for every day thereafter. So they're really getting serious about getting the job done on time. And that's something for both those of us in LEAs, but also for the charter LEAs. The CDE has developed, by the way, an LCAP penalty calculator on its website so you can see how it works. And then all eyes, of course, are kind of, or ears are waiting word on what happens in the aftermath of last year's veto of Senate Bill 414 and the Charter Reform Bill. That includes a lot of discussion about authorizers and authorizing. We have heard, discussions are happening quietly. There's some murkiness around the governor's role there right now, but the thought is that the governor's office may be, taking more of a leadership role there. There's been talk about possibly that manifesting itself in trailer bill, but there's other options. They could, AB 84 is still out there as a vehicle and kind of stalled in the process, or maybe something new altogether. You may know something that we don't, and if so, please chime in. But those discussions are ongoing, and if you hadn't had a chance to check out the CCAP report we did as to the authorizer specific parts of that discussion, we put that out in December, and there's a lot of information that we think is relevant to the as yet unresolved discussions that were part of those bills. And that's it from the legislative front.
Thanks, Tom. All right, so I'll give you the quick update on the California Department of Education and the State Board of Education updates. So the State Board of Education meeting was held on January 14th, 2026. The agenda included the consolidated application approvals, non-classroom based funding determinations, assignment of charter numbers, and approval of comprehensive support and improvement plans. The next meeting is scheduled for March 11th and 12th of 2026. The Advisory Commission on Charter Schools, or ACCS, meeting was held on December 9th. Its agenda included non-classroom based funding determinations. The next meeting is scheduled for February 3rd, 2026, and that agenda will include appeals of two state board approved charter renewals. So please go and take a look at what happens with ACCS on February 3rd. Next slide, please. So we will be moving into the hot topics. The information on topics are relevant to the oversight of charter schools in the program and the fiscal area. Next slide. So under the hot topics for program oversight, the mid-year local control and accountability plan, or LCAP update, that mid-year report is due on February 28th. And if you have not gone and checked out the CDE website with the LCAP requirements as to what needs to be contained in that mid-year report, please go do so. That applies to all LEAs, not just to charter schools. Non-classroom based new petition moratorium lifts. Well, this is now the third time you will have heard this. Back on January 1st, the moratorium ended, and so I've already heard that some people are receiving some non-classroom based petitions. I don't know how deep that is at this moment, but if you're wondering how to handle a new petition, please go take a look at the CASI 101. It'll give you some oversight information. The December 2025 resource page is not linked on. We'll make sure that we fix that. Thanks. Middle performance tier renewal criteria update. So the new requirement says that verified data is not required. On January 1st, 2026, Education Code 47607.2 was repealed and replaced with new language in Education Code 47607.2, removing verified data from the renewal criteria for middle performance tier schools. So here's what you need to do. In determining whether to renew a middle performing charter, the chartering authority is to consider the following: the school-wide and subgroup performance on the state and local indicators on the dashboard, giving greater weight to measurements of academic performance. Ta-da! That's it. Next, so last item on mine is that the 2026 performance category list. It was released on January 8th, and the link to the Excel sheet is available on the resource page. And I am actually going to now turn the time over to Kimberly so that she can share more info about the list and the dashboard. And Kimberly, we really appreciate you being here. I know that you're not feeling well and that you're going to keep your camera off, but we really appreciate you coming and sharing this info. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Michelle. Apologies to everybody. I will try to make it through here without sneezing on anyone. As Michelle shared, first off, I'll walk through updates to the dashboard growth data. So our dashboard growth data was released in December of 2025. And this is the first year that the growth performance levels have been displayed on the dashboard. In 2024 dashboard, you will remember there were growth scores available and information displayed on the dashboard. However, the State Board of Education had not made any determinations about what was good growth. In July of 2025, they took action. and made determinations and set categories for what those growth performance levels would be. And those are displayed on the dashboard and on the dashboard cards. So all LEAs, schools, and then student groups at those LEAs and schools with students in grades 4 through 8. Remember, high schools do not receive growth scores, have growth performance levels shown on their dashboards for both English language arts as well as mathematics. On the card, there is also additional information that the State Board of Education opted to display. And that additional information is the percent of students that improved their score from the prior year. This additional information is not their growth score and is simply additional contextual information that the board chose to adopt. If you are looking for the score that that got your LEA school your growth category and growth performance level, you need to go to look in the downloadable data files. That's where you will find that information. So in the downloadable data files, you will find growth scores for all LEA schools and student groups. You will also see the growth performance level there as well, along with that additional information. So all of that is available in the downloadable files. CDE will be hosting a growth webinar Q&A on February 2nd, 2026. That Zoom registration link is available. So you can click on that and register. It is open to all. It will not be recorded. However, we will be, as we create on-demand sessions based on the questions that we receive, we will be hosting an on-demand and posting that later in February to be able to answer any questions that work through on that. And there was a question around for purposes of charter renewals to have growth scores for student subgroups at the state level. So what's really important to understand is that the growth scores themselves are already compared to the state as a whole. So average performance is baked into your growth score. So that is very, very important. Just like everything else for the state, we're not comparing subgroups. The growth model is not comparing subgroup performance to subgroup performance. We are comparing it to the all. So the score itself already is comparing to all students within the state. So you're looking at performance in the average, right? Group would be average and similar to the state as a whole. So there are no state report for subgroups, as again, the state report for itself is already baked into the growth scores.
All right, next slide.
And then, yeah, as Michelle mentioned, we did release the growth charter school performance categories on January 7th. Additionally, the determining charter school performance category flyer was updated as well with the business rules that were utilized to generate this year's charter school performance category list. New for 2026 is that science performance on the 2025 dashboard is included in the academic performance colors and status. So that is because science received performance levels for the first time on the 2025 dashboard. So despite it not being included for differentiated assistance determinations, there are colors on the dashboard, and therefore the performance by charter schools on science in 2025 was included within the determinations, and that is noted within the business rules available there. And that's it for me, in case there's any other questions.
All right, Kim, you have two questions from in the chat.
When will high schools be included in growth data in the dashboard? High schools will not be included in growth data. There is no mechanism to do so, as the data for growth it needs to have consecutive years of information. And we do not have that because we have a skip lag years of grades 9 and 10 in testing before they test in grade 11. So that is unavailable. And so gross scores, as adopted by the State Board of Education in 2021, are limited to students in grades 4 through 8. And then I'm not quite sure what we mean by how do we get the growth score. Again, you can see all of your growth scores within the downloadable data files. So that numerical score, so 5 below, 10 above, right? 22 above, 22 below. Those scores are available in the downloadable data files.
All right. All right. Thanks so much, Kim. Next slide. We're going to turn this now over to Jonathan. And I think, Jonathan, you were going to actually take over the slides so that you
No,
could share the navigator tool.
yeah, no. Good morning, everyone. Not slides, but if it's okay for me to share screen, I'll share the actual navigator itself. Can everyone hear me okay? Hopefully. Great.
Yes, can hear you
Thank you.
great.
Great. So I'm Jonathan Eisler. I'm the manager of the Office of Research Requests and Partnerships at CDE. Really happy to be here. See several familiar faces, so good to see you all. I just put a link in the chat to our main Geo Hub, which I'll show in a second here. And then I'm also going to put a link directly to the actual dashboard navigator so that you can go directly to that spot if it'll let me here. So just bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to share screen, just kind of like where you find this on the website, and then kind of where to go from there. So let me share screen here. Whoops. Sorry. All right. So let me know if y'all can see my screen. Okay, great. So the easiest way, honestly, to find our Geo Hub and to find the dashboard navigator and other maps that we have available on our webpage is to go to the main CDE web page and literally just type in Geo Hub, and it'll take you to this landing spot right here. If you see here, our dashboard navigator is kind of our marquee product that we offer, a kind of geographic information system application, because it's the upper left-hand side, although you can see we have lots of other applications here as well if you have time to check those out. But I'm going to just skip right over to, if we had selected that first tab, it is the actual dashboard navigator. For those who've been around for a little while, this has been available on our webpage for many, many years. The first time we actually published this was in 2017, and obviously the dashboard has evolved tremendously. We did have updates in 2018, 19, and then obviously we did not have a navigator for 20 and 21 due to COVID, but we have made this available in the last few years again when the dashboard came out again. For some reason, sometimes when you click on the schools tab, and the main thing you want to look at here is just which actual indicator that you're interested in. I will typically select let me see here, suspension. And the reason I like to select suspension is because it's the indicator that has the most values. If you think about it, it's something that covers all of K-12, and it covers the most number of students and schools and all of that. And so what's really cool about this feature, there's a lot of really cool features with this application, but I think one of the cooler features is you can obviously get a kind of a 30,000 foot view of the state of kind of like what are the performance colors on the different indicators. So obviously here's suspension, and you get the total number of counts. You can do it for graduation. Of course, there's a lot fewer schools because it's just high school get this indicator. Obviously, you have the English learner progress indicator. Sometimes it's a little bit of a lag, so we'll give it a minute. College career, again, just high schools. We have chronic absence. And again, you can see how the distribution here kind of changes of the percentage of blues versus yellows, greens, etc. You have the mathematics performance. And then, of course, English language arts. But I'm going to spend the majority of time just kind of showing off. Oops, there we go. I'm going to spend most of the time just looking specifically at the suspension because, like I said, it has the highest kind of counts that we can look into. And what's really cool, what I really like here is that we do actually have this. We have different filters down here, so you can you can filter by level. So, like if you just wanted to select elementary, you could select just elementary, middle, high, etc. Or that's weird. If you wanted to look at just DAS versus non-DAS, you could use that filter, of course. For this audience today, of course, we're going to focus specifically on the charter filter, and it actually defaults to the charter. So when you land on this page, it actually defaults to the charter, non-charter filter. So what I'm going to do is actually select the non-charter just to kind of see what that looks like. And once you do that, you can actually see that the distribution changes a little bit. You have the total number of counts and so on that changed slightly because of that. If you just click within the box itself, it'll refresh back to the main landing page, so you get all of the schools again. And what I'm going to do now is actually just select just the charter filter so that you can actually see kind of like what that looks like. You can see here, it gives you the count of 1,263 charters that were basically mapped because they were eligible to receive a color on the actual dashboard navigator, and you can see the distribution of blues, greens, etc. You can further filter if you wanted to. So if you said, you know what, I just want to know just the yellow. What are the yellow schools, yellow charter schools on suspension? You can do that here, and you can kind of filter by that. And again, you can also click in the larger box to kind of refresh back to the actual thing. Again, I don't know. I have no idea what people on the calls level of familiarity with the tool is or not. So I don't want to go into too many basics. But one feature that I think is really, really cool is you can zoom in and out, of course, and you can actually select a specific school. So I'm totally randomly picking here. I'm just going to pick whatever this school is right here. And if you click on it, it will actually pop up information. It's taken a little bit of a while, but it will actually pop up very specific information about that particular school. And I have to move the little bar here, but it looks like it's Kings Canyon Online School. And what's really cool is every single dot that you click on, it will take you directly to that school's dashboard webpage, and it gives you the performance on all of the indicators. So it'll tell you the color for all of the indicators, right? And it does not have a color for English language, English learner progress color. Probably, I'm sure there's some, we can drill down further if we wanted to figure out why that was the case for this particular school. It will tell you which year it was, 2025, the CDS code, all of the kind of directory information that's important. It even has a street address. It will even give you the school demographic, right? So it'll tell you what the total enrollment was, total number by race, ethnicity, and by socioeconomic disadvantage, English learners, long-term English learners, etc. So this is a really, really cool feature. Again, I don't recall how many people out in the field use this regularly or not, but you can do a lot of really neat kind of filtering and drilling down to different things. If you click the home button, it will actually kind of refresh. It should refresh you back out, or you can recenter. You can always also just scroll out. Another thing that's really neat about the Navigator application is you have a search button. You have a search function. So I'm going to see if I can do it right here. So if you click in this little search bar, let's just say you're interested in a specific county. So I'm just going to randomly pick Tehama County. And it will actually zoom. Whoops, not Kansas. What the heck? Okay, I don't want Tehama, Kansas. That's weird. Let me scroll back here. Sorry. Let's do Tehama County. Let's do county. Of course, I picked the one. There we go. I'm like, that should not go to Kansas. Notice I didn't even randomly pick Tehama in advance. I would have never expected to go to Kansas. And then it'll actually send you to the actual county where you're interested in, and you'll include all of those charters within the boundaries of that county. So I'm just randomly picking a dot here, which is Evergreen Institute of Excellence. Again, it gives you all of the different information, CDS code, what their results were on the other indicators, so on and so forth. It'll give you, I think it gives you grade span as well. Yep, it gives you a high grade, low grade. Again, physical address, demographics of the student population, etc. So what I really love about this tool, enjoy about this tool, is just the ability to filter by different things. We'll click back here again if you wanted to, include all information as well. The other thing that is actually really, really neat, it might be difficult for me to show this because of just the way that I have the setup in Zoom, but there is actually even a way to look at the data underlying this. I'm going to play around with it a little bit. It might be very, very difficult to do that here, but there is actually even a way to export some of these data as well. That if you go through the actual GeoHub itself, there is data here. You can pull up the reference layers. You can export it into all sorts of different formats. You can export it into a text file, an Excel file. There are shape files. If people are more savvy with GIS, you can export different types of multiple types of shape files to be able to do that, and to just be able to pull data in a way that's very kind of specific to what you want to do. And again, you can, like I said, you can let's click on graduation just to get another indicator. And again, we'll click on just charter. So this would be just high schools, of course, right? Because only high schools would have the performance indicator for graduation. And again, you get a really cool kind of snapshot across the state of what's going on. And let's just say, you know what, we're really interested in where are those charter high schools that are having some trouble with the graduation rate. You can essentially look. Let me see if I can scroll here. It's taking a little bit of time to. Sorry. Taking a little time to filter. There we go. It took a little while, but you can see. Okay, you can see some patterns geographically. Where are there kind of some hot spots of schools around the state that are specifically charter schools, and where are the kind of reds congregated, as it were. So that's pretty much the gist of the demo that I have here. I see that the chat has completely blown up. I can't look at the chat and present at the same time. So I'm going to actually just stop sharing for a minute, Michelle. And I have no idea if there's questions for me or et cetera. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions folks have.
I think that most of the questions were where do you get the participant folder and get the info, and so I think we've answered most of those questions,
Oh, okay.
Jonathan.
It's not about the navigator. It's about your guys' folder. Okay.
Yeah, it was about
Got it.
because I updated the link on the
Got it.
reference page so that everybody would now have it.
Yep.
So,
Got it. Okay. Well,
but
like I said, I'm happy to address any questions that I have, and I'm going to play around a little bit here. But like I said, there is a lot of really cool resources on that main Geo Hub page that you can get actual files that you can download as well. So I'll make sure to put that in the chat in the next few minutes here, because I know somebody had a question about that. So any other questions or comments? Like I said, I'm totally happy to address whatever comments folks have.
I have a question. I see that it's filtering mostly by performance color, right? Like that's what I'm visually seeing. Is there a
Correct.
way to see the actual DFS?
So you would have to actually go to the link where it says there the link to the specific dashboard page. So the short answer is the DFS is not something that's visually displayed as a map.
Okay.
It's literally just the main indicators with their associated colors. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question, Jonathan.
Sure.
Would you mind sharing your screen again? I meant like
course.
when I was asking where do you click to download the files, you had said you can download it like as a PDF or as all these different things, but I didn't see like where that
Yes.
was. And I'd been
Yeah.
playing with it before and I couldn't find like how do
It's-
I pull it?
Yeah, good question. So it's actually within. It's not within the application itself. Like this right here is the actual application. You have to actually go around within the actual whatchamacallit, within the web page that we have itself. And for whatever reason, and of course, since I'm giving a webinar right now to all of you, I can't find it right offhand. But I will absolutely make sure by the end of this call to put it in chat, because I just saw it the other day and I'm not readily finding it right now, but I'll make sure that all of you get the link to be able to do that. Yeah.
Super. Okay. Because I thought, am I crazy? Am I not? There should be a little like upload button.
Yeah, there is
a
a way to do it, but I'll make sure that everyone can get that soon.
Thank.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Kimberly. We really appreciate both of you and joining our party. All right, we are now going to move into our fiscal hot topics, and I'm going to turn the time over to Shalou.
Thank you, Michelle. After that great presentation by Kim and Jonathan, I'm here to present the governor's 26-27 budget proposal and just sharing some highlights. So overall, the 26-27 budget proposal reflects a positive fiscal outlook with higher revenues projected across the budget window. When I'm talking about budget window, we're talking about 24-25, the current year 25-26, and 26-27, the budgeted year. The administration projects 42.3 billion more in general fund revenue over the budget window compared to 25-26 enacted budget. And this increase is largely driven by strong personal income tax on corporate tax revenue. And the projection assumes to be a continued moderate economic growth with no recession. Talking about the Proposition 98 minimum guarantee is revised upward by approximately 21.8 billion across the 3-year period. However, due to ongoing revenue volatility, the governor again proposes to under-appropriate the guarantee by deferring 5.6 billion, settle up. 26-27 budget includes a 2.41 COLA impacting LCFF, as well as other categorical programs, including Charter's Facility Grant Program, LCFF Equity Multiplier, Child Nutrition, Special Education, and Mandated Block Grant. The budget also proposes 2.8 billion in one-time funding for new student support and professional development discretionary block grant. Allocation details will be forthcoming in the trailer bill, but if it's distributed on per ADA basis, the funding estimated is approximately about 512 per student. The budget also proposes 6.2 million ongoing for extended learning opportunity program to stabilize tier 2 rate at 1,800 per student. Next slide, please. Here on this screen, I'm going to share about the 26-27 budget proposed targeted investment in special education, student support, and other workforce development. The proposal include 506 million to equalize special education AB 602 base rate, bringing the estimated rate to about 999 per ADA. It also provides 1 billion in ongoing funding to expand community school model. To support academic recovery, the budget fully restored 757.3 million for learning recovery emergency block grant. In addition, 100 million one-time for kitchen infrastructure and training grant program, another 100 million one-time to expand college and career pathways. Finally, the budget invests 250 million through 2930 to support educator residency program and strengthen educator pipeline. It's important to note, again, this is just a proposal and will be going through some legislative process, and we'll share more update on governor's May revision in May before the final adoption of the budget. Next slide, please. Okay, back to you, Michelle, for breakout session.
All right, so we will now be moving into breakout rooms. We're going to have about 10 minutes in the breakout rooms. You'll be moved into the assigned breakout rooms and back. There is a slideshow, which will be the link in the chat, to take notes for the facilitators. Please keep the introductions short in the interest of time, but indicate any first-timers to the rooms. We'll then report out some discussion highlights back in the full group, and the breakout rooms and facilitators will be room 1, 2, 3, 4, and the non-authorizer partner room. So, Amy, send us off to our rooms.
Opening now.
Well, hi everyone. So I think we have everybody back. So we'll do a really fast debrief. But before we even do the breakout room share out, can we put the survey info into the chat so we can at least get that? Oh, perfect. Thank you, Amy. All right. So quickly, room one, we talked about finding ways to get authorizers and charter schools talking to each other. We talked about a DOS renewal, and do you have to do 5 years or nothing, or is there some process in between? And finally, we talked about the actual timeline for renewal process, whether or not it was 60, 90, or with the extension to 120. And so we had a rich discussion. Room two.
So we did welcome two new people, which was nice to see. We had a couple new people to the charter chats, and then we spent our discussion really talking about the low tier renewals and what are objective indicators for those improvement plans.
Great, thank you. Room three. We have a room three.
Sorry, I'm
We'll
on
jump
mute.
to, oh,
I was
good.
on
Thank you,
mute.
Jeff.
Sorry. We talked about the renewal wave. We talked about the Highlands Community Charter that was the subject of the state audit, has now been revoked and owes $180 million. And so we talked a little bit about that and its implications on attendance, and then Inspire Schools and kind of like the funding that is coming from the CMO and 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 so if you have an Inspire school that is in the red, maybe connect with other authorizers that have Inspire schools.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Room four.
Well, we started our conversations off about material revisions, how often and when, and then the discussion about is there some that revisions that in fact may not always go to the board because they're more administrative type versus those that need to in fact still go to the board for action. We talked about, well, we asked, and so far none of the people in the breakout room had non-classroom based petitions as of this moment. Uh, we talked a little bit about how people are using verified data now that it's not legally a required allowable element versus its use as one of the of a possible use as by authorizers. And then we briefly mentioned and asked how many people have yet seen the CCAP report strengthening California charter school sector, updating authorizer functions and funding.
Thanks, Dave. And last but not least, Craig over in the non-authorizer partner room.
Yes, we had some good discussions there. The science counting, that indicator, and that caught a few people by surprise, they admitted, and probably not alone around the state. But I said, well, that's exactly why we included it today, to make sure everybody is informed. And we talked a little bit about also the leeway a board has for authorization and considering data outside of the dashboard and verified data, et cetera. And we talked about how that's really a decision a board can make. They don't have to stick to or reject anything that's not verified. That's absolutely allowable, even though it's not official, and so forth. And let's see, we also talked a little bit about one particular school that got put in the low category for the participation rate, but their verified data looks fantastic, and they're a dependent charter, so they're getting this person expressed a lot of confidence that they'll be renewed. They just kind of vented that it's going to have to be 2 years, and they're going to have to go through it all over again. Well, I mean, these are real situations and real feelings and real reactions, and it was a safe space to talk about it.
Great. Thank you, Craig. All right, next slide. So, as you already saw, we love feedback. So please complete our short after meeting survey to share your feedback and suggest hot topics for our upcoming charter chat and quarterly meetings, trainings, agendas. So if there's something that you need to hear or we need to hear or you need to learn about, please let us know. We are also looking for if anyone is interested in having breakout rooms by topic again. So I said we'd be doing that. I just want to know approximately whether or not there's interest for it. Next slide, please. So upcoming events, we always have our monthly charter chats. The next one will be February 25th. The CASI February 2026 special bonus quarterly training. That will be on February 6th. If you have not found the registration link, please look on the resource page. Next slide, please. We also have our April quarterly training coming up. And I know we've heard this every year, but it's the Road to Renewal. We'll be talking about it on April 17th from 9 to 11. The registration for that is on the resource page as well. Next slide. Finally, we do have Authorizing 101, Fiscal 101, or the topic of your choice. CASI can easily bring free training via Zoom or on-site locally to those who need additional support. We can also tailor our Authorizing 101 to local topical priorities. We can pair it with a training for charter schools, or we can combine to whatever you need it to be. So please reach out to CASI@cde.ca.gov. And the next slide. We also have one-on-one technical support. Reach out to CASI contract lead me, Michelle Johnson. Mentoring support, please reach out to Deidre Walsh. On-site trainings, reach out to Indra Ciccarelli, and please see the resource page for more information. I think the last slide says contact us at casi@cde.gov. Thank you so much for your attendance. We really appreciate, and please fill out our survey because we do live and breathe by survey information. And thank you.